Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk New Mexico. I'm your host, Ty Bannerman. It is June, and that means Father's Day is just around the corner, but masculinity as a whole has become one of the most fraught subjects of the modern era. From the toxic and abusive rhetoric of so-called manosphere influencers like Andrew Tate to the cartoonish political posturing of masculinism, a new right movement headed by figures like Doug Wilson, who was recently quoted in Atlantic magazine as stating that he'd like to see women stripped of the right to vote. The qualities of masculinity have rarely seemed so regressive. But what does that mean for fathers? What does it mean for their children? What is the healthy version of masculinity, and how does that factor into parenting? Today we are talking about what healthy masculinity looks like and how it can make a difference to New Mexico families. And listeners, this is your chance to call in and shout out the important fathers in your family and community. Tell us what's great about them and how they've made positive changes in the lives of their children. We want to hear about it. Call us 505-277-5866. That's 277-KUNM. Or email us at letstalk@kunm.org. And actually, we have a call on the line right now. We have Glenn from Jemez Springs going to kick off the show this morning. Glenn, tell us about the important fathers in your life, or any other question or comment you have.
Okay, yeah, I look forward to meeting other fathers who are open to their children joining the LGBTQ community. I understand that some of the macho fathers out there have problems with that. I am one who does not. I think we fathers were responsible for bringing our children into the world, and however they turn out and whatever choices they make, in love, we need to support them, and I support my children.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for starting off the show on such a positive note, Glenn. So we also have this morning Taos-based filmmaker John Bard Manulis, whose new documentary Fortunate Sons hits streaming services this month. Fortunate Sons centers on a reunion between former classmates who attended the Harvard School Military Academy. Masculinity, fatherhood, and mental health are recurring themes throughout the film. John, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So first of all, tell me how this documentary came about.
Well, I was a part of a class in seventh grade. We went into 1968 into seventh grade, so it was quite a while ago. It was pretty changing moment in American history. Mm-hmm. MLK was killed, RFK was killed, and Woodstock was right around the corner. And we came through that as a group of an all-male military Episcopalian school. And so we had a very, very formative period of time in teenage years through 1974 and on through the rest of our 50 years of life. So in early COVID, someone raised their hand, metaphorically, and said, "Hey, does anyone want to see a friendly face?" And we jumped on a Zoom, like 35 of us out of a class of about 90 that was still alive at that time, and we had a great time. People wanted to do it again. We jumped on another call a month from then, and I decided to record it. And I just thought, I'm a filmmaker, so I think about this stuff, and I thought it's hard to get two guys to talk about life, honestly, let alone 35 or 40 or whatever. And so it just seemed like an opportunity that shouldn't be missed, because you couldn't make it happen if you wanted to. I couldn't set out to find 35 guys to do that. And I'd never seen that, so we started to do it. We had conversations every month for the next several years. I brought in a classmate of mine since primary school, first grade, named Peter Jones, who's an award-winning documentarian who is also a member of our class, and pulled him into it, kicking and screaming a little bit at the beginning, and we just embarked on this project for the next 5 years. And
as you say, the respondents, the guests, the subjects, I suppose, in the documentary are pretty open about a lot of kind of dark, heavy stuff. Was that surprising to you?
Yes. I mean, we didn't honestly set out at the beginning to sort of do a deep dive into male psyches or even the most emotional parts of life. But, COVID was an interesting time. Isolationism, was hitting everybody in a different way. And Zoom is a kind of an intimate medium for people to feel comfortable, sharing over in the safety of their homes. And it just went there. I mean, there was a lot of talk about what you would expect of some old war stories and stuff about current life and things, but it just kept going back in and out of these heavier areas very gracefully over, as I said, like 4 years. It's kind of a rolling conversation, and the film reflects that. And
masculinity and fatherhood are recurring themes in this documentary. Why do you think it is that is something that the men return to?
Well, as I said, we were an all-male school and a military school, so pretty steeped in masculinity. There wasn't a lot of room, as several people say in the film, there wasn't a lot of room for any kind of exploration in terms of your own sexuality. It was 1968 to 74. Things were changing fast, but it was still, pretty closed down area. And so I think that was really in a lot of our developmental DNA, if you will, and in our lives going forward. And then, a lot of the guys became fathers, and as your caller just mentioned, have gone through their own challenges with fatherhood and with the children and with trying to evolve with the society, as the society has sort of had seismic cultural changes since then, just on a rolling basis. We've, things we've gone through over 50 years. And these guys were really a fascinating lens to see that through, because they were so specific and their upbringing was very specific and very unique. They were upper middle class, upper class, definitely being groomed to become the kind of leaders of our society, coming out of the Father Knows Best generation and, very much of the patriarchal kind of setup. And then it all just started to shift under their feet. And most of them rolled with it really, really well and became, I think, a fascinating lens to see this whole process through.
So I'd like to play a clip from the film. In this excerpt, Harvard School graduate, correct me if I'm saying his last name wrong, John Saliba. He talks about his marriage and his later relationship with his daughters.
I waited till I was 40 years old to get married. And Peter, I really wanted to have kids, so I just said, let's get married. And we were together for 25 years, so that was pretty good, but not devoted to her, and she knew it.
You weren't faithful to your first wife.
I wasn't faithful to anybody, Peter. I've never been faithful in my entire life to any girlfriends or anybody. I think this is part of my shallowness that my daughter's trying to bring up in the therapy we're doing now. My oldest daughter was basically saying that I was self-absorbed and wasn't a very good father because I just thought of myself. And now I'm listening to her and trying to acknowledge it. It's not easy, Peter. It's not easy,
So, John, why do you think that his story was important to include in the documentary?
Well, I think it's, first of all, John is he's the motor behind our reunion effort. Essentially, he was the sort of emotional drive, the pursuing this at all costs to make this happen at all costs, and that kind of knit him into the story in a very basic way. And then emotionally, this kind of openness, this kind of story that so many men in America certainly go through, and so many marriages go through in America, and his openness in dealing with it, and his ability to sort of confront it at age 60 and on with his young daughter, who's a product of an entirely different cultural lens and upbringing, and to embrace that, and to embrace it on his side, not on telling her to shut up, not on telling her, I am who I am, I brought you into this world, let it be, or whatever. He's at this point realizing he has a better future ahead as a better human being. And it's challenging, but it's something he's embraced fully, along with a cancer diagnosis that he fights through the entire film. So I just think it's an extraordinary story, and he's a wonderful person to sort of take us into that. And the film like this doesn't have a lot of statements to make. We don't go in with a perspective that we're trying to hammer or educate an audience about. You take away from it what you see in it that relates to your life, but it does have a permission structure involved where you see guys opening up, you see guys who seem to feel like the power of connection is important, and there's an actual power to vulnerability, not a weakness to vulnerability. And that gives people the ability to come out of the film and have those conversations themselves with their families or loved ones or whoever. And that's, I think, what has been remarkable for us to see.
And listeners, we'd love to hear what you think makes a good father and how ideas of masculinity play into that. Once again, you can call us 505-277-5866, or you can email us at letstalk@kunm.org. John, another of the men interviewed in the documentary is Kevin Cooper, and I'd like to play a clip from him as well. There is a bit of a content warning for listeners. His story does talk about suicide. We hear some voices of other men first, and then we hear Kevin's story. Let's go ahead and play that.
All the pressure came from Dad. He had told me, when you graduate, you're off the payroll. Don't come looking for me. There was never a thought in my mind about taking a summer off or screwing around for a month.
We had to measure ourselves against our dads. My dad and your dad were bigger than life.
Your dad was kind of scary.
Scared me sometimes, too. Powerful fathers. Did you ever feel like you were competing with your dad or trying to get his approval? Very, very rhetorical question. I mean, now I hear myself asking it.
Yeah. Let's see. He died 7 years ago. I'm still trying to get it.
The expectation, well, you went to Harvard School and you went here and your family's successful. What's the matter with you? I think that's crushed a lot of guys.
I was working at a summer job, and my brother called me. He said, "You have to come home right away. Dad killed himself." I was just like stunned, just completely stunned. And I walked into my boss's office. I remember this, I'm a, 18-year-old kid, just a young man. Walked into my boss's office, said, "My dad killed himself. I got to go." And just walked out of the office, drove home. I remember driving home. I couldn't stop my legs from shaking. So I was trying to drive, right? Push the accelerator, push the brake, and my legs were going like this. And I got home and found out that my dad had shot himself the night before. And that was sort of the beginning and the end of my family. When my dad killed himself, it was the day before he was going to lose his job. I went to business school and I studied real estate and I went into commercial brokerage and I went into commercial development. And this is what my father's business was. I was this very sensitive introvert and I went into this business that really is for ruthless extroverts. I started having flashbacks of abuse and that happened to me. And it was like, I'm not putting my kids through that. The main thing that was happening is I was getting really angry and I didn't know why. And my wife said, "This isn't okay. She's not putting up with it at all. You need to go get some help." And the process was so amazing to me. My therapist said, "I think you were trying to take the shame out of the family by doing what your dad did when he killed himself." My becoming a therapist was really about my healing myself. That's what I realized ultimately. That's what it was about. We can deal with it or not deal with it, but it doesn't go away.
Okay, that was Kevin Cooper from the documentary Fortunate Sons by our guest, filmmaker John Bard Manulis. And if you or a loved one is in crisis, you can reach the Suicide and Crisis line by dialing or texting 988. John, what was it like for you to hear Kevin's story?
Stunning. You know, none of us as close as we were to each other in grammar school and high school, and we were in each other's houses a lot. You know, we didn't have any idea of the things that were going on in the background. It turns out between parents and kids, whether it was abuse, physical or psychological, or whether there was, you might have heard that someone died, but you didn't hear the stories behind it. You did, and there was a lot of covering up of a lot. Kevin's story earlier mentions, this act that he put on for most of his life, which he calls the "Hey Kevin" act, which he was always a kind of a trying hard to be the thing in school for guys, and that's what we knew him as. We didn't really know where it's coming from, and I think that's true for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. So hearing that from Kevin in that way was revelatory, and also the what it highlighted was this thing that we heard in different ways, not always as clearly or as dramatically, but from a lot of different guys, which was that there was a lot of pressure to follow footsteps or to do what was expected of them. And the pressure was significant and took a lot of forms, and that they really took flight when they broke from what their parents and their upbringing expected of them. And eventually, whatever that was that made that happen or that allowed that to happen, and started to chart their own path. And that's when they kind of became their own person and often became their own successes. And he was the most pungent version of that we heard.
Okay, we do have to pause the conversation for a moment. We'd love to hear from listeners on these issues. How has fatherhood changed in your lifetime? How was your father different than the fathers of today? What's better? What's worse? Give us a call, 505-277-5866, and tell us about it, or email us at letstalk@kunm.org. This is Let's Talk New Mexico. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Let's Talk New Mexico. I'm Ty Bannerman. We are talking about masculinity, fatherhood, and mental health today with my guest, John Bard Manulis, the producer of the new documentary, Fortunate Sons. We also have a call from Marie in Santa Fe who wants to tell us about what she loved about her father. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning.
So tell us about your dad.
Okay. My father, his name was Zoilo Aragon, Zoilo. And he was from a long line of ranchers, originally from Spain. And I always say that my father was strong enough to be gentle. Not only was he physically strong, but his character was strong. And I am one of 7 children, which is, not easy to be in a big family. But he never raised his voice at us, and of course, he never spanked us. And if we needed to be disciplined, he would just look at us with a certain look and shake his head once, and that was it. If my mother was ever sick, he would come in from feeding the cattle or the fields or something, and just take over, cook dinner or whatever needed to be done. He was always given the horses that were difficult to break, because he was a very gentle man, and he was like, as they say now, the horse whisperer.
Wow. Well, he sounds like a wonderful person, and thank you so much for sharing that memory of your dad. And if other listeners want to call in and share share their stories about their father or maybe their own insights into fatherhood, they can call at 505-277-5866, or you can email letstalk@kunm.org. Now I'm speaking to John Bard Manulis, the producer of the documentary Fortunate Sons. And we just heard a pretty heavy story from one of the subjects of the documentary, Kevin Cooper. He talks about his father's very aggressive workplace and how Kevin himself actually wound up following in his footsteps despite being a pretty different kind of person before later on finding his calling with therapy. John, how do you think that this reflects the change over that 50-year period in how men view their roles?
I think it's there's been a real growth in a start, I should say, because I don't think it's a completed process at all. It's a very deeply ingrained thing to move away from being the center of the universe and the center of the family to something more egalitarian, something more equal, something more mutually respectful than what my generation started with. But that's happening. I see that process happening, and I think respect is at the center of it. I mean, in a sense, your first caller on this about this gay daughter or son, I'm not sure who he was referring to, but was grounded in respect and a recognition that, people have intrinsic value, and it's to our benefit to embrace that we get as human beings and as a society, we get tremendous strength and tremendous value out of the diversity around us in all its ways, not the simple diversity that we talk about so often. And I think I've seen that with fathers over time as starting to evolve in a way to embrace that and embrace their own frailty and not feel that they have to be strong and silent about these things, and that, as I'd said before, that vulnerability is actually strength, and that the connections that you have with your family and with your friends particularly that's the lattice work that gives you strength to get through the trials and tribulations of life that we all have. And our stories are really specific in this movie, and our upbringing is really specific, but the experiences have turned out to be incredibly universal.
How did making this film change your view of your own life experience and perhaps masculinity and fatherhood?
It made me challenge my own weakness in reaching out to people and maintaining relationships. Particularly, I've always definitely valued friendships and in a deep way, and talked about valuing friendships in a deep way, but there's a difference from talking to actually doing and nurturing those. And for whatever reasons, that's always been difficult for me, whether privacy and then respecting the privacy of others, or whatever it is that I apply to that, it's challenging, particularly when you have someone who's sick in your life, or worse, someone who's dying. It's very challenging for people to step into that space and know what to do and what to say. And ultimately, you don't have to. You just have to be there. You just have to be present and let them know that you're present, and that's the effort you're making. But that's very hard for all of us. And so I've learned through this, because all these friendships came back into my life 50 years later, many of which weren't real friends at that point. They were acquaintances. They weren't my group. They weren't my tight group. And even some of those I'd been apart from for a long time. And it all came back as being very easy. The connections were easy. The history we had was shared, and there was a trust. And it made me feel much better about being able to do that even outside of my high school class, and to put in the effort to do that. And I encourage everybody to do that, and to recognize that, bridging that gap of time is not difficult. You'll fall into it. It's like riding a bicycle, and the value of it is extraordinary.
Where can folks see the film?
We've are released at the moment on kind of all the popular video on demand platforms that are where you can rent and purchase, not subscription platforms. So Amazon Prime, Apple, Google, YouTube Movies, Kinema, and Vimeo on demand. So we're available there. You can rent it, you can buy it. It's called Fortunate Sons. You can also, on our website, if you want to host your own screening for extended family or friends or a community group, church group, whatever, you can go to fortunate-sons.com, host-a screening, and you'll find it there, a way to we'll help you get through it, and we'll give you a copy, and it's a pretty simple process.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, John. So I'd like to go ahead and open the conversation up to some of our other guests we have in the studio this morning. We have Johnny Wilson, the Executive Director of Fathers New Mexico. Thank you for coming in today, Johnny.
Hi, happy to be here.
And our third guest this morning is Justin Lorenzo, the Emergence Fund Director for Indigenous Women Rising. Both of these organizations are part of the New Mexico Healthy Masculinities Collaborative, an organization that is a working group that seeks to explore gender, reimagine masculinities, and build healthy relationships. So, Johnny, let's start with you. Let's talk a little bit about Fathers New Mexico. What does the organization do, and what's the mission?
Fathers New Mexico is its purpose is to provide supports for people identifying themselves as fathers. That can be stepdads, grandparents raising grandkids. That can be boyfriends, people that are fathering. We do serve moms, by the way. I just want to make that clear. And so the idea is to provide one-on-one case management support for fathers who may be struggling, and that can look a lot of different ways depending on the dad and his family and what his needs are. We also have groups, which is a really important component, dads groups, to give dads an opportunity to build a community of fathers, support one another. We also have education programming, parenting education, everything from co-parenting, which can be a real challenging relationship if you don't live with the other parent, and working out those details, as well as specific to parenting styles, communication with children, child development. And we also advocate on behalf of policies and practices that will support fathers and families with the ultimate objective being the best interests of the child.
So there are a lot of programs that focus on women as parents, but comparatively fewer that focus on men or that target men. Why do you think that is? Well,
I think John, the filmmaker, made reference to our history of how we treat families in our culture, and for a period of time, it was really the father knows best model, right? Like dad is the center in terms of authority, and bringing in the resources, right? And mom is primarily responsible for caring, for being the caregiver, right? Now, I don't really think that ever existed. That was not a thing. There were plenty of men that were parenting in the 50s and 60s that were loving their children and nurturing their children and changing diapers. And as the caller who referenced her father, a rancher, if mom was sick, yeah, sure, they had some traditional quote unquote gender roles, right? But if mom was sick, dad stepped in. Dad came right in and did what needed to be done to care for the family and nurture the family.
So we're talking a little bit about masculinity today. That word's come up a lot. I'm wondering, what is your definition of masculinity? And get ready, Justin, because I'm going to you too after this.
Yeah, that's a big question. There's a whole bunch of conversation in our culture today about genders, and I think they're wonderful conversations. I think it's a really good thing for us to be exploring. There's no need to be afraid of it, and we have some challenges, right? And so, for me, there are there is not a definition of healthy masculinities. It's plural for a reason, right?
Okay, that's
different people, different life experiences, different roles. We can allow for a lot of different interpretations. But healthy is the key point, right? Is the key objective. And I'm going to give you an easy formula. Like, one of the things that we are learning about what people need to be healthy in general, mental health, is they need connection with other people. They need genuine, deep, sincere connections with other people. And that does not happen without personal vulnerability and the ability to open up to other people's concerns and needs, not to know what those are immediately, right? But to be open to them. That's how relationships are built. And so that, to me, is the core of a healthy masculinity. And it's not always easy. And you have to be able to stand in a space of, I don't know what to do here. I don't really understand what this person is sharing with me, but I'm willing to sit here, maybe even be uncomfortable, but to learn and to offer my love and support.
And Justin, what are your thoughts on masculinity and what it should look like in a positive sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I think you got a lot of it there. But to me, yeah, I think the key thing is being able to learn and give grace to yourself to understand that you can grow from what environment I guess you were raised in. And so I think that just the allowance to allow yourself to learn new things and apply them and like to change and to be different and to do different things and to just to continue it and like understand that it's a growing journey. We're not the same people that we were from when our kids were first born versus to when they're adults. So, and that's going to even change too when they're adults. So just navigating the different dynamics within your kids and learning how to grow and learning how to listen, because I think kids are like the best judgments of character, and like they can see right through the facade that you put on for everybody else. And so just that is just like, yeah, I think the main thing is like learning and not being afraid to try new things and just like, and yeah, accepting it. You made a mistake in the past, and we can learn from that too as well.
And listeners, we want to hear from you on this too. What do you consider the positive qualities of masculinity? What can be harmful about the cultural idea of masculinity? Call us, 505-277-5866. Email letstalk@kunm.org. And let's talk about some of the ways that ideas of masculinity can sometimes work against healthy parenting practices. Johnny?
Yeah, I think there's a real clarity that a lot of people feel that they have, that as they become fathers, that my role is to kind of impose order on this family, right? Be a disciplinarian, and of course to bring in the money, and those needs can be expressed in really unhealthy ways. For one, with regards to being the provider, there's nothing wrong with that intention, right? For one, in the modern era, however, for almost all families, there isn't the provider, right? Both parents have to bring income in, is kind of in our modern economy, right? So if you're not comfortable with that, how is that going to be expressed? Is that something you can work out with your partner and grow to understand and give yourself grace, as Justin was saying, and really just learn to accept that reality? Or is that going to make you feel insecure and like you're not doing your part and you're not super self-aware, and so you're not processing that reality in a healthy way, and you start getting mad at the world and maybe even mad at your partner because she might make more money than you and you're not comfortable. There's all kinds of different ways that those expectations can articulate themselves in an unhealthy way, and in a way that, it may not be the father's intention, but it hurts the family.
Yeah. And Justin, what are your thoughts on the ways that some of the cultural ideas of masculinity can actually be harmful.
Yeah, I mean, myself coming from Laguna Pueblo, which is a reservation about 45 minutes west from Albuquerque, I think about that a lot because, like in today's age, like when you think about a family, it's nuclear. So there's the mom, the dad, and the kids. And so with that, you're putting a lot of stress on the father or even the mother too, on the family to know everything, like essentially right away. And when you think about, if you think about it back in the day, we really did have a community to kind of help shoulder some of the emotional, burden that we had, or teachings as well too, because as we know, like our grandparents are the more patient ones that are ready to understand that it's going to take time. Mm-hmm. And so just like thinking about that, and yeah, like how Johnny was talking about, like how it might not be their intention, but the stresses that the men have to feel like they have to provide and be like extra and be like Superman for their family, mm-hmm. really does like come out to the family, and it hurts them in a bad way just because they don't deal with like their emotions and like any of the insecurities they might have. And so yeah, it really does hurt in a way too when we put these like values that we have now that we have to essentially be perfect from the get-go, mm-hmm. which a lot of parents know we're not that, and we grow into that eventually, but it takes time.
Absolutely. Okay, we do have to take another pause here. There is still time for you to call in and share your thoughts. How do you think our society can better reach young fathers with the help they need to be good parents? What strategies do you think could work to help them embrace positive masculinity? You can give us a call, 505-277-5866. Email letstalk@kunm.org. This is Let's Talk New Mexico on 89.9 KUNM. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Let's Talk New Mexico. We're discussing positive masculinity, parenthood, fatherhood with my guests, Justin Lorenzo of Indigenous Women Rising and Johnny Wilson of Fathers New Mexico. So we're talking about the ideas that maybe men have about themselves. They have to be Superman, as Justin was saying, especially when they have a new child, or they have to be the provider, and that's where their role ends. And sometimes those can be an obstacle for being a healthy parent. But what about the way that society views young men from that perspective? Can you talk a bit about how that can create a barrier to men becoming healthy partners and parents, Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is still true that we expect very little of men in the realm of nurturing and caregiving. Mm-hmm. And I think that damages men, just that lack of expectation, that assumption that men have maybe a peripheral interest in loving and parenting and nurturing their children, when that's absolutely not the case. Like, we've worked with hundreds and hundreds of men over the years at Fathers New Mexico, and I've worked in other settings and where there's male identified parents, and it is the rare male who's parenting that doesn't love their child with the same depth and intensity of any other parent. And really, we need to expect men to step up and step into that role of being a nurturing parent. And there may be some challenges, right? There may be some gaps in understanding about how to do it. But that's a thing we can do. We can love him as well, and teach and show and be patient.
Mm-hmm. And Justin, what are your thoughts on the messages that the way society can view men that might be an obstacle to them being as effective and positive a parent as they could be?
Yeah, I guess just another, what I guess I can kind of see too is, I guess we're quick to label people too as well too. And so I think that's kind of a little scary now, like especially in today's society. Like, we're quick to deep dive in people's social media stories and find these things that again too, like, because people are they're different, and so like I think there's an emphasis on like being like great right off the bat, and then like there's also like a form of I guess I don't know what you would call it, like a fake not advocacy, but like I guess just like I guess a show. No, it is very cultural, and so I think there's like I guess intention to be like more, I guess to have like more one-on-one conversations, because like I think online people put on different personas. That's what I'm trying to get to. People put on different personas, and so I think we really, to actually like connect with them, we need to start talking face to face more. And so like I think that really can help a long ways.
Instead of them watching a YouTube video from somebody promoting, or looks maxing or whatever.
Yeah, those things can be helpful, right? To watch a video or something. But that's something we find at Fathers New Mexico is like the interpersonal communication and connection between dads and with educators that they're working with and other dads is profound. It has a huge, and I'm just going to plug New Mexico Men's Wellness has been doing this for 40 some odd years now, with men specifically, right? And multiple gatherings a year, and they arrange for men's groups to get formed and all that kind of thing that is supportive of healthy masculinities. And men connecting with other men.
Now, you, through your work with Fathers New Mexico, there's also a project called Future Men that I believe works with middle school aged boys. That's probably the target group for a lot of the negative messages about masculinity and what men to do. Do you find that these kids this age are being affected by that, and how do you counter those messages? Yeah, obviously early adolescence is a profound time for everyone, and you're really developing some of your understandings about what it is to be a grown-up, and that evolution is super intense. It's a very difficult time, right, socially. So it is an excellent time to meet. And the Future Men Project is designed to give space for the conversations, right? So it's the intention is not to go into the room with 10, 13-year-old boys and tell them what healthy masculinity is, and this is, you need to integrate these bullet points into your character and into your way of being in the world. It's a conversation. It's hearing from them also and letting them talk amongst themselves about what they believe at this point, what lessons have they taken from their family and their culture about what a man is, and that's part of why I think it's powerful, right? Is they get to do the exploration. Yes, there's a facilitator in the room, right? There's exercises that are designed. But they get to do this exploration into, and really the question is, well, what do you want out of relationships, right? What do you want from yourself in the world? How do you want to present? You often hear young people, I want respect. What does that mean, right? There's a substantial difference between the respect of someone the quote-unquote respect of someone who you fear, who is dominating the people around him or her, right? And the respect for someone who is not approaching community and relationships in that way, right? And who is understanding that there's a give and take here, and by the way, the program also includes sexual health content, and that there are resources in communities, and so there's tools too. But quickly, it's really difficult to find the spaces to provide this programming. Why is that?
For young people? Well, there's a lot of demands on schools in the world, right? And this is so schools are difficult because you got to get the group together, and you can't do it during lunch for 20 minutes. That it takes 14-year-old boys 20 minutes to chill and and start a conversation, which is appropriate. That's age appropriate. That's we want to honor where they are in their life, right? Not force them into a new box, right? So you need an hour, approximately, right? You need to create the space, and we culturally are not doing that. And I could say that for all kinds of different work that we should be doing to improve outcomes for children, right? For parents and for children. But we'll specifically early adolescent boys, tons of challenges. We know now the men and boys are failing at are having downward trajectories in terms of data points not seen before, right? It is dramatic. It should concern all of us, and this conversation about healthy masculinity and efforts to mitigate these downward trajectories should be central, not in any way to sideline working with women and girls and with our LGBTQ communities and with our issues and challenges with racial and ethnic violence. And anyway, I digress. But we do need to be addressing it.
Not a zero-sum game. That makes sense. Well, Justin, let's talk about the New Mexico Masculinities Collaborative. Both Indigenous Women Rising and Fathers New Mexico are a part of that. First of all, why is it masculinities plural?
Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll let you take that one.
That's okay.
I mean, it's about, like I said, about the boys in the Future Men Project, right? We don't want to put them in a box.
Right.
We don't want to put all you men out there that are like, I don't need to become some soft, fuzzy, I don't know what folks might be thinking, right?
Yeah.
But no, you don't, right? You don't, right? But in order to be a constructive, healthy member of a community, you do have to be able to listen. Justin's point earlier that I thought was so poignant, right? You do have to be able to listen to the people around you. And you know what? That even means your children.
Oh, gosh.
Right? As the fatherhood guy, I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing to do to solve a problem with your child is not to tell them how to act. It's to listen to why they're experiencing what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to you right now? What can we do to help you right now? Right? There is plenty of time to teach the lessons about behavior. Right? And you can still do that. But oh boy, did I lose your question?
No, I think you're doing great. But I did want to talk about the Healthy Masculinities Toolkit, which is produced by the collaborative, and it is available on the KUNM website right now if you go to the show's page. And I wondered if you guys could kind of walk me through some of the concepts in this toolkit. What will somebody find out if they download it and open it up, Justin?
Yeah, they'll find different little sections where it talks about consent, which is like huge in today's age. Not only for like partners, but like I think also for our kids too as well. Like we had to apply that to our kids too, and like with relationships to, I guess, people that they talk with too, and like understanding like the concept of what is consent. And so like that is really like a strong, helpful part of the toolkit that I really like that you can also expand upon, I guess I would say, to being better, not just better men to women, but just being a better like human in general. So
yeah, agreed. And there's conversations about what do we mean by gender, right? And I you referenced sort of the hyper old school masculinity like expressions online and whatnot, and some of these ways that are kind of shocking and disturbing, honestly, like the Tate Brothers stuff.
Yeah, right.
And I know a lot of the folks that might be listening to those conversations, hear the word gender and they kind of react.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage them folks, like, it's okay to have a conversation about this, right? You do not have to agree with with all the interpretations you ascribe to the quote unquote left or whatever. it's a conversation, right?
Yeah.
And if you can let other folks have their views and their perspectives, you're going to learn something from that, right? And the toolkit has some exercises and strategies for approaching the questions that open up conversations.
Yeah.
And it does it all from a place of assuming respect.
Right.
Right.
Makes sense. Now, you both are fathers, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I am, yes.
So I feel like probably one of the best ways to learn about what works, what's positive for being a father and what isn't, is to be one. Justin, what lessons have you taken away from your experience of parenting?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said too, the kids are the best judgment of like your own character, and like they're right there to call you out on lessons that you teaching them, and you might not be fully fulfilling yourself, and so like they're good at least my kids are good at talking back with. I'm not talking back, but just letting me know. Yeah, and so it is
like
good.
Little
and
mirrors.
So, yeah,
They're also good at talking back. Let's be
yeah.
Oh, sure.
So it's good. It's a good good test, and like also it's a scary concept, or not scary, but it is a huge responsibility to know that you're teaching this next generation of people how to be good to like people around them, and so and so it's really it's rewarding, and it can be still scary at some points too, but it is rewarding though, because I know like our kids are good people, and they are a good reflection of like what I felt like what I've learned along the way, and so they're so it's I'm very happy like to I guess have the privilege to have that with them.
Love that. And Johnny, the same. What do you hope your kids learn from your parenting when they?
Well, they're adults now, and that's a trip. But I think, and they're amazing women, and so I feel like I don't take credit for that. It's certainly not all the credit, but I think I can apologize. I could when they were little. I think that was a big one. I think there's a lot more that I could say, but I hear the music starting.
Yeah, the music has started. That does mean our time has come to a close. But thank you guys so much for coming in. So we had John Bard Manulis, the executive producer of the documentary Fortunate Sons, Johnny Wilson, executive director of Fathers New Mexico, Justin Lorenzo, Emergence Fund director with Indigenous Women Rising. You can comment on this show by email at letstalk@kunm.org, or find us on your favorite social media, including YouTube now, where you can watch the show. Just look up at KUNM Radio. Audio from the show will be streaming at kunm.org soon. You can also get the Let's Talk New Mexico podcast from Apple and Spotify. Come back next week. We'll be surveying New Mexico's post-primary political landscape. Our engineer today was Marino Spencer. Mark Hazlitt took your calls, and Megan Kamrick produced the show. I'm Ty Bannerman. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk New Mexico.